Yeah, it becomes Chekhov's spaceship. You know that it's going to cause problems later, and it still does a good job of making it tense.
Also, in terms of just Krasinski, he made sure that he wasn't showing too much, which I think just is massive. You cannot show too much with these creatures. It has to be just the right amount. Hello, friends, and welcome back to Modern Horror Movie Talk. I'm your host, Tyler Nichols, and Andrew Hatfield back for another one. Andrew, how you doing?
Doing good. It feels good to be back. I was getting lonesome out there without appearing on this. So thanks for having me back.
Yeah, not a problem. And we're dealing with a movie that you wanted to cover, actually. So I'm excited for this one because I've really enjoyed this film. So it should be fun to talk about. We are discussing A Quiet Place. I almost called it The Quiet Place. I think that's a different movie.
Yeah, that'll be a spin-off sequel.
But A Quiet Place. So this movie came out in 2018, and I feel like it pretty much immediately put John Krasinski on the map in terms of being a director, because obviously he's known as Jim from The Office, but he put in the work here. This is it's just very, very well done. And I know that he didn't write the original screenplay, but he did a pass on it. And I don't know, there's everything that I've known that he has done on this movie in terms of the changes to that script. It sounds like it was all for the better. So what do you have? What are your thoughts on A Quiet Place?
One of the most tense theater experiences I have ever had. Anytime, and it was a pretty full theater. Anytime someone had popcorn or the crinkling of a bag, it was the loudest thing in the theater, and it worked. And so you could tell the movie was doing its job.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that it's become this almost extended universe. We got the second one with Cillian Murphy, and I think there's another one coming and a spinoff. So I think there's two in the works, one from Krasinski and one from him. But it was one of those things that I was very impressed. I felt the same way when, because correct me if I'm wrong, I might be freeing this. Bradley Cooper directed A Star Is Born, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and so just like with those two movies, I was like, okay, these guys probably hung around the right people for most of their acting career, and they figured it out. And that's awesome to see. And it's not like I honestly can't tell you what else he's directed, but I think he was doing the Jack Ryan stuff around the same time.
Or shortly after, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that Clooney is one of his big influences and like who he modeled a bit of his career after, because they worked together on Leatherheads, and I know that he essentially shadowed him during that. So
yeah, and I mean, Clooney's a sneaky good director too on the stuff that I've seen him do.
Yeah, he makes weird choices in terms of the scripts that he chooses, but as a director, I think he's extremely underrated. And like you were saying too, in terms of your theater experience. So I saw this on a date opening night. I still remember the group of teenagers that walked in to the theater before the movie started, and I immediately was just like, oh no, opening night movie, and then more teenagers came in, and I was not wanting that kind of an experience. Everyone was dead silent the entire movie from the opening, because even during the trailers there was some talking and stuff going on where I'm like, okay, it's gonna be one of those times that sucks, but I'll deal with it. But holy crap, to this day it's one of my favorite theater experiences, because also the sound design and sound editing is so good.
Yeah.
There's a reason that this was Oscar nominated.
Well, first of all, it's funny to talk about dead silence with the poster right behind you. I can see the words dead silence. But also, this is one of two theater experiences that stand out in my brain that my wife and I went to. We went to the first Conjuring, and I think our son asked, what's the scariest movie? And that was her answer. Like, her scariest theater experience was the first Conjuring that we saw together. And then I remember seeing this and just how quiet it was and just what a good experience. Because I've had experiences like you. When I saw Evil Dead Rise, there was a literal baby in the theater. And I'm like, come on, guys, like, and this is on like a Thursday at 9 o'clock at night. So I just, the movie theater experience just isn't what it used to be.
I had that exact same experience at Halloween Ends, where a child was brought in, where then it would cry throughout, and but throughout the whole time, like whenever it would cry, I'd be like, I feel you, baby. I feel
same,
you.
buddy. Same.
Which, by the way, a little bit of a tease. We are absolutely covering Halloween Ends this October.
We might have to have like a panel to get you, me, Mike, and Lance, everyone in there to discuss their feelings on that thing.
Yeah. In terms of A Quiet Place, there's something that I feel like we have to talk about, and this is the non-spoiler section, but this happens in the first 5 minutes of the movie, and it's even spoiled in the trailer, so I don't feel like it's really something that we can not discuss. And that's just the whole opening where it sets up the world, and the son gets killed in a brutal, brutal way. And the tension of that scene is so masterful. How he picks up the little spaceship, and then how it's like set down, where it's like, oh, the danger that's there. And then when the daughter hands the toy off, like there's just so much, every little movement, it just kind of like adds another marble into the the jar of tension.
Yeah, it becomes Chekhov's spaceship. You know that it's going to cause problems later, and it still does a good job of making it tense. And you said that he dies in a brutal fashion. He does, but it's brutal without showing anything.
Yes,
and and this is another one of the just wonderful examples of a movie that doesn't have to show everything to still be impactful in a horrific way.
Sound design.
Yes, but that's not spoiler, because I think everyone knows that.
Yeah.
I think B, even if they watch the trailer and they haven't seen it, they know the crux of what's happening there.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, then guess what? And this is an intriguing reason to watch this movie. A kid dies right at the beginning, and it's very well done, and it's not exploitative. So if you want to see that, like, go for it, because it works really, really well.
Like I said, I like the second one quite a bit as well, but I do like in this one, they don't explain anything, how everything happened, other than in like newspaper clippings and things like that. Now, the second one obviously opens with the end of the world, essentially.
One of my favorite scenes in all of modern cinema.
Mostly, I don't like things explained. I think they did a great job with that one in the second one.
Well, because the explanation is something where it's like, okay, it explains, but it doesn't, you know what I mean? You can kind of assume it's one of two things when you're watching A Quiet Place, it's like, okay, either of these things appeared, like came from the ground, like mysterious, or came from space. That's really the only two out. Oh, I guess, government experiment as well, but I never like when it goes that route.
No, give me an ocean creature, a ground creature like Gears of War, or give me a good old fashioned space creature anytime. Yes. Yeah, and I guess over explaining isn't the right word, but showing, you don't need to show everything, but I think we cared about these characters, so seeing what happened to them in the second one was actually kind of a genius move. But the first one does the world building, because they have all the sand to cover their footsteps, and they have the trails, and they've done this, like they know what they're doing, and it tells a better story than just showing us exactly what happened.
Am I crazy, or is there like a coziness to this movie, even though it is so tense?
I think that makes it more tense, because they're not scared, which kind of puts you at an uneasy position, because you're scared. Maybe they know what they're doing.
They're not scared, except for when they are. Like when it's like the most subtle, like the simplest noise, where you're like, oh, that's not enough. But based on their reactions, we were like, oh, apparently that is enough to like draw out the creature. So those little details, I think, go a really, really like long distance in terms of world building. The world building in this film is top tier. Just very, very well done. And I feel like the performances are another aspect that need to be discussed, because everyone in this movie is so, so good. I usually have a huge issue with children actors, and I absolutely have some issues with the Noah Jupe. He's the son, Marcus, in the sequel. But in this one, I think he's think he's perfectly fine. Millicent Simmons, though, is the star of the show and absolutely phenomenal. And I don't know where this girl came from or went to, because it's like, this girl is just amazing. And I know with her being deaf in real life, it probably makes her more limited in terms of her roles, but like, why is she not doing more? This girl is incredible.
Yeah, her facial expressions, her ability to emote and just feel, it adds so much to the movie. That's saying something when her three other adult counterparts are Emily Blunt, John Krasinski, and then later Cillian Murphy. Like those are people that know what they're doing and are instantly people gravitate to on screen.
Yeah, so and I'm sure that's an aspect of why she is so good, because she's has such good people to, help her. But still, you gotta be the one to put in the work to be able to do that, and she clearly is.
Yes. Yeah, and then I guess I'm trying to think where to cut off. Is creature design spoiler?
I'm trying to think of what else we can talk about before we get into the spoilers. I mean, let's see. We've talked enough non-spoilers. I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, make sure you check it out, because guess what? We're gonna get into some spoilers that are gonna make you really annoyed that you didn't watch it yourself and are then hearing us talk about it instead.
Yeah.
I'll say right now, and especially with the sequel having kind of further cemented this, I think that Krasinski's death is cool, but feels so fucking unnecessary. I feel like there were definitely other ways for him to get out of the situation, and like for him to have saved his kids and not be dead, because essentially the same thing would have happened if he had thrown something that then made a loud noise that then the creature went after. The same exact series of events could have happened.
Yeah, his character was way too smart to immediately go to that. And I mean, I've discussed this before. As a parent, like, you would do anything to save your kids, but you also want to be there with them if you can. And so, yeah, and similar to the other guy, earlier in the movie, the old guy who screams to kill himself because he's got nothing left to live for, that kind of shows, that, kind of the same way. But it really didn't have to. It's probably the only part of the movie that you can telegraph, that you do see coming. Like, okay, he's going to die. Like, even the stuff, man, and I guess also for spoilers, like, what's the worst possible thing to have with you when you can't make noise?
Oh my God. Even when it was revealed, because I think they do that when they first do the little time jump and they show her stomach, and where it's like, oh my God, no, babies are so loud.
Even though, I was pretty sure they weren't going to kill that baby even after they killed, the younger son. But I was pretty sure they weren't going to kill that baby. But just everything, when they have it in the quiet box with the oxygen tube, and it's all the part is flooding down there, and when she's having the baby in the bathtub all by herself, like, all of that stuff, even though I kind of knew what was going to happen or what wasn't going to happen, I guess the Krasinski thing, him dying, is unfortunate, because it felt unearned and it felt unnecessary.
And it also feels like something that they kind of noticed their mistake, I feel, where, he's brought back in the beginning, right in the beginning of the next one, because he's such a strong character, where then I'll be disappointed if, when they do A Quiet Place 3, if they then don't do another, flashback to then show him, because he's too strong of a character.
They could even have something where, like, him interacting with the son that dies, to show the two characters, that more on that story, or more of him teaching his daughter, sign language, and when she's deaf, things like that, like, just something to bring him back. But I wouldn't be surprised either.
We're getting into that weird territory, though, where the kids are getting too old for them to do flashbacks and have it be believable.
The Stranger Things kids that are going to have, like, stubble now going into the next season.
De-aging on kids is something where I'm like, I can't not see the weird uncanny valley-ness of it.
De-aging in general is hard. I think for me, still the best one is Kurt Russell from Guardians 2. But that's just because Kurt Russell still looks pretty good. Like even the recent Indiana Jones one was hard because it was an 80-year-old Indiana Jones voice in a 40-year-old body. Like,
yeah, I still haven't seen the movie, so I still am just going off of trailers, so I can't properly judge the de-aging of that one. But I was not impressed with the trailers.
Yes. So yeah, I who knows? Like Krasinski'd be fine. He can play that. You dirty him up a little bit or whatever.
Yeah. Well, because
shave his beard, he'll look fine.
You could potentially just do like you said with the kid, because they already recast the youngest kid once. So I mean, you could easily just make the flashback where it's something with the youngest boy and just him and Emily Blunt. So then you got those three. You're not showing Noah Jupe and Millicent Simmonds, where you don't have to worry about any de-aging. Or have them off at the, you know what I mean? Where it's like they're technically still in the scene, but they're off in the distance, where it's like they're in the world still. And you can do this real, I don't know, better de-aging because it's at a distance. I don't know. Something where I just don't want, fuck me and my asides. But the newest Mission Impossible, it came out that they were thinking about doing a de-aging scene, and then they decided against it. And all I could think was like, thank God, because I'm so sick of de-aging scenes. Because they don't work. But yeah. So yeah, Quiet Place Part 3, don't de-age, please.
No, please don't. And what did you think? What do you think of the creatures in this universe?
I think that they are very, very cool in terms of their design. I love how they're just blunt force like objects that throw their bodies at things, and they're like essentially little dump trucks. Like they can there's no finesse to them. They are just like linebackers, and that's scary, especially when they're sound based.
Yeah, they're there for one reason. They're not there to negotiate. There's no higher intelligent leader. They're just there to kill and eat and take over the planet. And I think they did a good job like explaining how the military tried, and even tank missiles did nothing to these things. They could not penetrate the shells on them.
Yeah, I like that. And I like I don't know, everything how they did the design. They clearly mixed some practical with CGI, which I think is always a brilliant thing to do. But also in terms of just Krasinski, he made sure that he wasn't showing too much, which I think just is massive. You cannot show too much with these creatures. It has to be just the right amount.
Yeah, and there was a lot of great stuff where it was them in the background, where they were kind of blurry, or where you could see things moving, but you couldn't really see them. And that did a great job of building tension without showing. Again, the whole theme of this movie is show, not tell. And it doesn't tell because you have to be quiet, but it also just, it does a lot with a little. And I really liked how they went about that. Yeah,
and one of the smart things that they do too, I didn't even think till just now, is that, because obviously it's the big reason that the big kaiju movies like either Pacific Rim or Godzilla will be set at night, because CGI you can hide a lot more of the faults at night. And so if you notice, a lot of the creatures are shown at night, and when they are shown during the day, like it's quick, it's essentially motion blur, where you don't even really see them. It's just so fast, so then you can't really perceive the effects, which I think is just brilliant, because like Krasinski doesn't know how the effects are going to turn out. He doesn't know. So it's smart from a directing standpoint of covering your ass, where it's like, okay, yeah, we don't have to then show, because it's just like, I mean, Spielberg planned on showing a lot more of the shark, but didn't work out. So
no. The shark did not want to work ever, so they had to figure it out. The other really tense scene, I mean, just about everything is her stepping on the nail. You take something that literally happens in Home Alone or Home Alone 2, I don't remember which one, but you transpose it into this, and she has a rough movie between losing a kid and then getting pregnant in that world, having the baby alone in a bathtub with the creature chasing her, stepping on a nail, and then trying to protect her.
They set up so well with, I think she snags it with a bag of potatoes or something, and it's just smart. It's not something, I feel like a lesser movie would have set it up, just before it happened.
No, honestly, that movie, I don't, as popular as it was and is, I don't think it gets talked about enough. And I think it's because they've taken their time with this franchise. They're not doing a Saw every year or, other things like that.
Yeah, this was actually one of the first 4Ks that I bought was A Quiet Place, which means, unfortunately, I think it's one of those crappy 4Ks that like it's just the 4K on the disc where there's no commentary, there's no special feed. Thankfully, that's not the case anymore. They're getting a lot better about that. But I think even Quiet Place Part 2 has stuff. But this one is because I was wanting to watch some stuff before this. And yeah, it's like they don't have crap. They have stuff on like the Blu-ray, but then it's like, whatever.
That's how I remember early Blu-ray being like that too. You'd get the disc and it's like, cool, I have it in Blu-ray, but all the cool stuff's on my DVD still that I want to watch and discuss. But okay.
It's very frustrating. That's the number of things that then they released on DVD and had all of these amazing specials. And then if they release on Blu-ray, less specials, and then 4K, it's like just even less where it's like, wait, what? Why are we going backwards? We can't, just because there's higher resolution doesn't mean I don't want the special features. It's so frustrating. But I mean, I think we've pretty much covered it. What would be your rating for A Quiet Place?
It's either 9 or 10. Like, because I'm honestly trying to think of, I think it might be a 9 because of Krasinski's death. Because even though there's only one real issue I have, it's kind of a big deal. Like he's so cool throughout the whole movie, and it kind of deflates a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think I'd have to say 9, but there's so little wrong with this movie. There's not much to pick apart here. So I'd say 9, and if I'm feeling generous, it would even go to a 10. But I'll say 9. What about you?
Yeah, I am right there with you. I think this is a solid 9 out of 10, and this is this was one of several movies in 2018 that just blew me away because it was like Hereditary, which we covered a couple weeks ago. And then I'm a big Halloween 2018 fan, even though I will say I watched it recently and Halloween Ends kind of ruined it. So we might have to cover that. We might just do a big special episode where we cover the David Gordon Green trilogy because I have so much to discuss with that. It'll just be like an hour-long episode.
Well, I mean, I guarantee we're gonna discuss The Exorcist when it comes out. So around that time will be, maybe
when is The Exorcist?
I think it's October.
Ooh, I didn't even realize.
We could just do David Gordon Green month if we wanted to for all of October.
Oh my God, that sounds miserable. Oh. Though I do like Snow Angels. I do. I mean, I shouldn't even say that. I love David Gordon Green. He just really pissed me off with Halloween Ends. But no, I agree with your 9 out of 10 rating. I think that the Krasinski death is my only complaint about this, and which is weird because I am almost always applauding a main character's death in a movie because I think it's really ballsy. And I think even when I saw this originally, I was very much a fan of it. But then the sequel came out and I was like, oh, well, it kind of doesn't. I don't feel was really justified. Like we were then, I don't like Cillian Murphy essentially just fills the John Krasinski role in that movie.
Even looks like him in that, except for he's wearing the baseball hat and, he even pretty much looks like him if you squint. So yeah. yeah. So yeah, there's that aspect. Just, I don't know, it doesn't work as well for me. But yeah, I'm with you on that. 9 out of 10. Great movie. If you guys have not seen it, make sure you check it out. And let me know in the comments what your rating for the film would be, what you think of the movie, what you think of A Quiet Place Part 2, if you want to see us cover that. And we'll see. I mean, I feel like we almost kind of already covered it on this. But if you guys want to, let me know. And Andrew, thanks so much for joining me. This has been a blast as always. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye. Bye, everybody.